So welcome back everybody, and once again Dad, thank you for sitting in front of me, in front of the microphone. I just know how much you love that. Now the last time we did this interview, you gave a great story of your past. Now we finished at Germany, you just come back to England. What is the next chapter of your life?
I think the next chapter is really, I was able to, I moved to Essex and a place called Aldborough Hall with Bob and Mary Garrett, and I spent a few years there. It was a great place because Bob was ex-army, he was in the Household Cavalry, so he was extremely disciplined and had his difficult sides, but great character. He ran Aldborough Hall for just over 50 years. Massive training establishment for BHS exams and having students in. So it was great for me to go there. So I had the opportunity to rent half the yard, which is behind the indoor school, had 20 boxes, own small yard there. So it gave me the opportunity to start running a business, having horses in for training, breaking. I had also the opportunity I helped a bit with the riding school as well, when they had their stage 3 and stage 4 exams, helping set up for the day, producing horses and some of the jumping horses and quite a few of the dressage horses for those exams. We also ran a 2-day dressage show every month, which was a great good fun. And we also had an opportunity a couple of times to run the Southern Regionals, Eastern Regionals at Aldborough. So it was a really good fun learning curve for me. Lots of young horses at the time, producing those, competing. I think at one point I had about 11 young horses from novice to medium, so I was out all the time. So it was really quite busy. And as I say, it gave me the opportunity to get some money behind me because I was being able to buy and sell a few horses, and it was some good fun times.
And tell us how that actually felt. You've just finished, the story telling us about the fact that you were at Sarah Whitmore's and then you went to Germany, and both of those you were working for somebody. You've now come to a part of your life where you're having to be independent. How was that such a big change? Knowing now how independent you are, it was a massive learning curve for you. But then how did your mindset change?
My mindset, I think it's one of the cases you learn by your mistakes, and I just had to learn how to do my books, learn how to employ staff, learn how to keep staff, learn how to deal with owners, learn how to manage that side of it, as well as being able to pay my bills and my rent on a monthly basis. So it was a very steep learning curve, and especially that first year was really difficult.
And how old were you then, Dad?
I was, let me think now, I was at 23. Yeah.
So that's still incredibly young to suddenly have to go out on your own.
Yeah.
Without really any support behind you.
Yeah, no, I didn't have any support. I mean, Bob was great. He was very good at guiding me on different areas and things like that. And he was very good because he was an trained accountant as well. So he was quite helpful, when I asked him the questions, but he wouldn't give me any advice unless I asked. So I learned very quickly to sort of muddle along and then think, it's not going very well, and then not frightened to ask him a few questions and things. So it was a good time. And while I was at Aldborough, I got the opportunity to go to Australia to compete. That was really good fun. They had a CDI competition there, and the first person I went out with was I had a chance to.
It's all right. I'll let you think about it, considering it was so long. But
it's like a few years ago. So anyway, and chance to go. We basically 2 of us went out each, and we had a chance to compete out there. But we had borrowed horses, and so that was quite interesting. We had 10 days to get used to these ropey sort of Australian horses. The first horse I had to ride had been trained to Grand Prix, but spent 4 years rounding up sheep.
Oh, lovely.
So
suppleness wasn't quite the key there.
No, it wasn't, bless it. It was a little bit stiff and a bit rusty. So after 10 days of sort of trying to get it on the bit and B, trying to bend it. I had to then do a Priest and George,
Oh.
which was quite interesting. It did the tricks and things, but weren't always as supple as we would like to be. The second day, I had to ride the Inter One, which again was interesting to do. The pirouettes were okay because I think it spanned quite well, but I think that's about it really. And the
Chasing those sheep.
Exactly. And then the third day we had to do music, so we had to take a freestyle out, some music with us. We had no idea of what the horses could or couldn't do, so we had to just sort of have music that sort of slightly generic that might fit anything, and a floor plan that again that might fit anything. So it was good fun. We went back the second year, and that's when Julie Hugo was part of the English team then, myself and Julie. And again we had the same. We had slightly better horses the second year, and it's good fun. But we won the sort of the team competition because they put the two schools together. So it was a good fun time. So that was another interesting part, sort of flying over there, meeting new people, and dealing with that situation. And so it was a really good learning curve.
How did you get selected for that? How did that work?
It came up as from British Dressage. Anybody wanted to go, you just applied and you had to send your CV in, and then they selected 2 people to go, and off you went. And it was very much sort of a fact-finding mission. Unfortunately, they don't do it anymore, which is a shame because it was a really good experience to go and work out how to ride in 10 days' time. We had an international competition to do, and with 2 very strange horses, so it was good fun.
And were you competing the sort of Prix St George Inter One level before you went out?
Yes, I had been. I'd done a couple of internationals anyway with a little horse called Grim Mantle,
right?
Which I bought as a very, very naughty 4-year-old, and he was very, very tricky, and I got him very, very cheap because no one could stay on him. And I spent a year trying to get him going, as it were, that I could actually ride him without being thrown off or sat on a wall, so he was very tricky. But anyway, we worked out that because I had quite a few young horses going out, we took him to a show, probably 2 or 3 times a week, and put him on the lorry, and he was brilliant. So I used to take him on to work him at the race competitions, and he actually was very good because at home he was terrible to ride, but take him to shows, really well behaved. So that's how I managed to train him and get him going until sort of the penny dropped. And then he ended up being a really super little horse, and I got him up to Grand Prix, and he was super because I sold him as a Grand Prix horse back to Germany, which then enabled me then to put a down payment down to move from Marlborough and buy my own place, which is Jubilee Farm. So that's the next little stepping stone, really.
So you've just finished Australia, so you had a fantastic time out there. You just sold your Grand Prix horse, and then now you're starting another chapter, like you've just said, another life in a brand new place that, okay, knowing what I knew what Jubilee Farm was like when you first bought it, it wasn't quite ready-made, was it, Dad?
No, it wasn't. We'd looking around for a place to buy, and everything that we saw was far too expensive. I couldn't afford what was on the market at the time. But a good friend of mine, and she does backs, Annabelle Jenks, she's always around Essex doing horses' backs and humans' backs. She was great, and she knew that I was looking, so I said to her, look, if you see anything or hear anything, give me a ring. Anyway, she gave me a ring one day and said, Paul, I think I've just found somewhere for you. She said, it's a bit of a tip, but it's going up for sale. Anyway, I rang the chap, and he said, come and have a look. So I went up and had a look on a Wednesday, looked around it, and had quite a few. It was an old sort of derelict cattle yard. It had a house on it, 3 big barns, and quite a lot of acreage. And so I looked around it. Had great potential, but I thought, God, it's got a lot of work on here. But anyway, so went home. We decided that we wanted it. So by the Friday, I rang him back and said, we'll have it. And then it just started work after that, having to sort of sort the mortgage out and get going from there. But the place was, it was a real tip. We went in, I took 2 weeks off to try and move in. We had 42 cars stacked in a pile. We had 3 lorry backs, a Sherman tank sat in the corner somewhere. There was, all the barns were full of cow dung, so we had to dig all that out. There were, however, I think 10 stables on the place, but they needed repairing. I had a little tiny sort of arena thing that was 25 by about 30, so it was tiny, and it was a real wreck, so I had to get that levelled, take all the stones out, and then take the surface off what was on. It's an old Posada surface, put a membrane down, resort it, and then put this Posada arena down in this tiny arena. And no indoor school, not a stitch of fencing on the place. The house was just a disaster. We managed to live in 1 room and a bathroom, I think it was, to start off with. And I just thought, well, I can afford this, and it's going to take me probably 10 years to build it up, which we did. And I had to sort of buy and sell quite a few horses to do the house up, and then put the stables in, put my outdoor arena in, a new 20 by 60, which is huge excitement when that went down.
I can imagine.
I've been practicing on a 20-metre circuit for 1.5 years, teaching horses, but I tell you, got the horses quite collected. I was very good at using corners by the time I'd finished that small arena. So it was a good time. And then we were able to just slowly move on with the horses and move on with the business. And I was able to have a really smart horse come along called Martinique, who was good fun. We did quite a lot of Grand Prix Internationals with him. I was able to go on the World Cup tour, did some World Cups in Olympia, and quite a lot of shows in Europe. It was a really good fun time. Super.
Matty was an amazing horse, and I remember him very, very well. Tell everybody a little bit what Matty was like. He wasn't the most straightforward, was he?
He wasn't. He was very good in his head, but he used to get very strong.
Very, very strong.
But he never did anything wrong. He just got stronger and stronger and slightly faster. The half halt was not really in there, really, bless him. But he did everything. He was a good horse. He had very good pied passage. Not perhaps the best canter in the world, but he did everything. And he was just it was a lovely character, but just a bit strong at times.
I remember when I was very young and you allowed me for the first ever time to walk Matty off. And of course, knowing me, I didn't leave it there. The next thing, you turned around and saw me cantering Matty, and I just remember you very calmly going, and whoa, Matty, stop, because I think you were very worried that I was going to pick up some speed.
I was worried. I could just see him getting slightly quicker. I thought, oh my God, because you were only a little dot at the time, and I thought this could go, badly wrong, but it didn't, and he came back to my voice, which is brilliant. So that sort of moves us on to you now, doesn't it, really? I think then you started, because you did talent spotting when you were, how old were you then? 12?
Even younger, doing the talent spotting. But just before we jump to that, because I know you're keen to start talking about that, but I want to talk a bit about actually looking past all the chapters of your life that you've just explained to us, from being born to Jubilee Farm to, sort of now. What bit of your life do you think that you gained the most from training?
I think it was that transition of going from Sarah Whitmore's yard to Switzerland, Spanish riding school, and Germany. That was the biggest influence in my understanding of training horses and understanding how to assess people. That was the biggest area, I think, because I was exposed to so many good horses, especially in Germany. And a variety from 3-year-old stallions right the way through to international Grand Prix horses, and a lot of people coming to Klaus for training. So I was able to watch, some really super horses being worked, and that caliber. So I think I gained a lot from that, and then I was able to then bring it back and then to adapt some of that to how I rode myself and how things work for me. So I think taking those 4 areas and then sort of finding my own way, my own system, but having a system. And I think it's really important that you have a clear idea. So you have your start with the young horses. how you train the young horses, which you have progression through into the advanced medium level, then onto Prix St George, and then into Grand Prix, but making sure that the ultimate game is Grand Prix, but actually not being frightened to ask for a horse to do a few half steps earlier on, or ask for a flying change earlier on, so the horse has it in there. It's no point going through what I call the competition system. You go novice, elementary, medium, advanced, because things are left too late. And I think the horse needs to develop certain muscle memory of things, so that it's not a shock to them. So when they get to Grand Prix, you've installed all that work in them. And I think I've, over the years, understood that more and more. And I've met, you make quite mistakes on the way, because you try certain things, and sometimes you haven't got the confidence to follow things through. You think, it's not going very well, or you think it's not going quite right. But you've got to be able to keep your nerve a little bit sometimes, and then jump that hurdle or reach the top of that hill and find, actually it was fine. But also then look back and think, I shouldn't have really come about it that way with that particular horse. But I think by making those mistakes, you actually learn what to do or what not to do. And also having so many different types of horses, hot ones, difficult ones. I always used to get all the difficult horses to ride, that people that tried to do things with or were too much for their riders, and I had to then find that key, how to turn the horse around, get his brain back, and get that confidence back in the horse, so they understood what the rider was actually asking, rather than the horse being frightened or nervous or difficult. So I think those horses taught me more on how to deal with those different problems. So it's basically, I think, dressage is problem solving, really.
So I think you've and I watch you teach. I love watching you teach, and obviously between you and Mum, you've got me to where I am today. But you've got a very, very solid foundation when you teach, and you are very good at adapting the foundation to what you need to with the horse or rider, and that's what I love about watching you teach. And I think that very much comes from, like you've explained there, going to the different countries, which I think is a fantastic opportunity to be able to do, and you can really see that when you train, that you're able to adapt very quickly, and I think that's one of the best things that you do when you teach.
I think so, but I think also as well, if you look back beyond that as well, having been brought up in a sort of the riding school dealer yard, and having to adapt with different types of horses, from show jumping horses. Our grandfather had quite a few horses for training for pointer pointing, getting those type of horses fit, even down to having the odd circus horse in, and teaching how horses, to different ways of going. So I think you draw on the eventing side, the show jumping side, and I think that also has helped as well. I think it's just that whole journey really of just sort of storing bits and pieces and trying to sort of pick it out as and when I need it, really, with different types of horses. And I think as I look back now, the horses have changed so much in their style, because they were sort of slightly heavier hunter types, and they've refined so much. So they're a lot more refined, and there's sharper and more movement now. So you have to adapt your riding and training to suit the way the horse is being bred, and how the sport is now going.
Yeah, and I think going on to the next bit now, before we start talking about my ponies junior young riders career, and I think that may be quite a story, Father, so we may have to leave that till the next interview I do with you. But you've missed out the most fundamental part of your journey of your life, is obviously having your amazing children. So tell us a little bit some of the stories that happened when we were younger. You were trying to go to shows. I'm pretty sure poor Mark got left somewhere at some point.
Oh, yeah, Mark, bless him. He was great. He used to come to all the shows and had a couple of stories. He must have been about 2 or 3, and we were at a show one, and we're sitting there, and Mark was sitting there. We were sort of sitting watching a few horses in the warm up, and he turned around with a very, very loud voice, and I didn't realise 2 things happened. A lady turned up in a very large pink horse box, and he turned around and went, and everyone's listening. Thank God the lady wasn't listening, she was driving. He went, "Oh my God, what a disgusting colour." Well, I think everyone in the war nearly fell apart laughing. And then the second point was about half an hour later, he turned around very seriously in a very loud voice and said, "Dad, why have their horses got their heads in the air? They're not like what you ride them, with their horses round and down and going forward. They look terrible, don't they? And I'm like, shush. But it was, sort of out of the mouths of babes, comes the truth. It was hilarious. And another time, he was a bit older.
Yes, and this, may I say to you, explains my poor brother has severe OCD, thanks to my father.
Well, bless him. I think we were off to a show. I had about 4 or 5 horses on the lorry waiting to go. I had my poor, a good girl called Jenny, who worked for me for many, many years. So she got into the lorry, and I said to Mark about probably 6, 7 times, get in the lorry, we're leaving. Get in the lorry, we're leaving. Anyway, so I got distracted, had to go and do something else very quickly, grabbed what I had to get, got in the lorry, got the lorry going, off we went, set it off, tootling down the road, got to the first motorway, it's probably about 15 minutes down the road. Anyway, thinking, Mark's really quiet. So I just turned around to Jen and said, Mark's quiet, what's he up to? I thought, if he's quiet, he's probably up to mischief somewhere. And she went, Mark? I said, what do you mean? He said, he's not here. What do you mean? I'd only driven off and left him, hadn't I? Oh my God. I thank God in those years we had just started having mobile phones. So thank God Jenny could ring the yard, and then I had 2 guys back at the yard, and they had to look after him, bless him, for most of the day until I got back. Ever since then, he's never been late in his life.
He will not be late. It's like a thing with Mark.
So, yes, I scarred him for life. But in a positive way, he's never late for anything, bless him.
No, it's very true. And I think we teach a lot of people, especially you, Dad, that have had children and they're trying to balance equestrian life, which takes over your everyday life with children. And I think it's quite a thing sometimes to admit that it's difficult. Hence why you left your child by himself. But anyway, moving on.
And I used to have to. Mark was interested in the horses. He rode occasionally, but he was very good. He loved to come to the big shows, and he was brilliant at that. But obviously, I was mindful that, he loved football. He liked cricket, so I used to go obviously on a Saturday and go and watch him play football, which used to, especially when he was younger, look like a sort of swarm of boys running around after footballers, and there was no sort of strategic thing.
No organisation there for you.
No, so I had to sit and watch all that, and it was usually freezing cold, raining like there's cats and dogs, and got absolutely soaked. But never mind, I kept a smile on my face and did all that, because football's not really anything I'm at all interested in. But, that's what you do. Your child wants to do this, whatever he wants to do, and you have to support them. And I think that's really where Mark's gone off and done other things, sporting things, and it's been good fun. So it's quite nice to have other things outside of equestrianism.
And it's very well balanced between all of us as a family. I mean, you and I and Mum are horse mad, but Mark has the most amazing mathematical brain I think I've ever met. So even though we're competing, we'll always come back and he's always re-adding up the test sheets. I don't have the heart to tell him that it's too late if it's wrong, but he's always re-adding up the test sheets and always keeping up online with how we're doing from a mathematical point. So from that, it's great that we have our own team as a family.
Yeah, and he's very good at analysing the score sheets and things, and doing spreadsheets and looking at, where we're making mistakes and things like that. And he has that logical, mathematical mind. So he's very good at that, isn't he? And he's very good at much better than a pair of us, I think, because he will know who's won what where, who's riding what horse, how they're bred and everything like that. Well, it just goes over my head half the time. But he knows exactly who's doing what where. It doesn't matter what sport it is, but he's very good at the equestrian sport, isn't he?
Yeah, and he really enjoys it. It was great. Sometimes when I go commenting, I really wish I could just bring him with me and he could sit there and feed me the facts. He's great at that. And he's been very, very supportive through my career with the Ponies Junior Young Riders, which we are very much going to touch on next time, Father. But thank you once again.
No problems. It's been good fun.
It has. I've enjoyed it. This is fun, isn't it? Aren't we having fun?
We are.
So we really hope that you have enjoyed listening today, and we will very much have one again, I would say next week. Next Thursday, Dad, should we aim for that? Next Thursday, if I can sit you there still enough for next Thursday.
If it's in the diary, it will happen.
And we will talk a little bit about my career going through Ponies Junior Young Riders, and how I've had an amazing support team going through the whole journey, and how Dad's side of the
My
story,
side of the story,
oh
yeah.
dear, will come across. So thank you very much, and we will speak to you next week.